Okay. Good evening to everyone. Thanks very much for joining us this evening for the live Q&A with BMAT. We're really pleased to have Rachel from the official BMAT support team join us this evening. She's given us all of aid, and we're really excited that you can all join us, kind of share any questions that you have, any concerns, and basically have a chat with some friendly faces here. We also have Connor and Ricky from the Becoming a Doctor Aspiring team. Who'll be on hand to help bring your questions forward and share any thoughts where relevant. And my name's Raj. I'm also part of the Becoming a Doctor team, currently a junior doctor, and really excited for today's session. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Rachel.
Okay. Hi everybody. Can I be heard? Am I okay? Yeah. Welcome to this introduction to BMAT. So we're going to look at why universities use BMAT, what's in the test, when you take it in 2020, and finally we'll cover some tips for preparation and FAQs. So certain universities ask their applicants to medical, biomedical and dentistry courses to take BMAT. Now, when you take BMAT, universities then have one common piece of information about all of their applicants that can help them compare everybody fairly, no matter where they're from or which exams they've taken. And because of the types of things that you're being tested on in BMAT, it also helps them see whether you've got the right skills to succeed on your chosen course. We do always stress, though, that it is just one part of the application process and that they do look at other things as well, such as your school grades and your UCAS form. You can find out more about how universities use the test results on their websites, because here at BMAT, we write the test and mark it, and then we send the results to the universities, and then they use the results in different ways that fit in to their processes. And all of the information about that, it's always available on their websites. Okay, so the UK universities that require applicants to take BMAT are, sorry, could you switch to the next slide? Brilliant, thank you. So these are the UK universities that require applicants to take BMAT. Please note on this slide, though, that Manchester and Kiel require the test only for international applicants, so information about that is on their websites. Please visit our website for full details of which universities and which courses require the test. And please do ensure that, obviously, as you know, things are sort of pretty, changing quite a bit because of COVID. Just ensure that you check there for the very latest information about the test. Okay, I'm going to look at what's in the test. So BMAT is a 2-hour test in 3 sections, and you sit them one after the other. In section 1, which is thinking skills, you answer 32 multiple choice questions in 60 minutes. And this is testing your skills in problem solving and critical thinking. Section 2 is scientific knowledge and applications, in which you answer 27 multiple choice questions in 30 minutes. And it's based on the science and maths typically covered in school by the age of 16. So in England, that is around GCSE level. Sorry, that is GCSE level. The final part is section 3, which is a short writing task. Okay, I'm going to look at a few sample questions now. These questions are from the practice papers on our website, which have worked answers. So if you want to follow up on these questions that I'm about to show, you'll find them there on the website. So section 1, thinking skills. Problem solving questions in section 1 involve using numerical and spatial skills. You can't use a calculator for any part of BMAT, but you can make written notes to do your calculations. But as you can see from this sample question, the mathematical reasoning required for these questions is quite simple. By that, I mean that the questions don't require really complex equations. The work that's involved in answering these type of questions is finding the way to reach the answer. The answer here is C, in case you wanted to look back at that and have a think about it. Okay, next up is critical thinking. So critical thinking questions in section 1 typically look something like this question on the screen, and they have a paragraph of text presenting an argument for a particular conclusion. So the skills tested involve evaluating explanations in arguments and identifying conclusions, assumptions, and flaws. The answer to this one is D. Okay, on to section 2. So this is a sample of a section 2 question. So this section tests your understanding of biology, chemistry, physics, and maths. Now, BMAT questions don't simply rely on factual recall. They require you to show that you can apply your knowledge in a way that demonstrates that you understand the subject. This is a sample of a biology question, but you can find lots and lots of the different questions on our website in all of our practice and past papers. The answer to this one is C. And on to section 3. So section 3 is the writing task. In this, you write a short essay. Now, this is just one side of A4. Okay, there are 3 questions to choose from, and you answer only one of them. They're on a general theme, a scientific theme, and a medical theme. And you choose whichever one you can write the best essay on the day. So you don't need to answer the medical question just because you're applying to do medicine. You choose the question that you think, oh, I've really got something to say about this. And then you choose that to write your essay on. It's essential that you answer all parts of the question you've chosen, whichever one it is, which will typically follow a format similar to the question shown on this slide. So that is along the lines of, what do you think the statement means? Argue the contrary point of view, and to what extent do you agree with the statement? This section is testing your ability to communicate effectively in writing and to organise your ideas and present them clearly and concisely, supporting them with evidence. Okay, well, as everybody knows, because coronavirus has affected schools, colleges and test centres, this year we will only be running one test session for BMAT, which will take place in November. This is the date that it's on the 4th of November. All of the key dates are on our website, plus information about how to register. Okay, let's look at some tips on preparation. So when it comes to preparing for BMAT, you'll find everything you need on our website, and it's all there for free. A really great place to start is with this preparation guide here on the left. This guide gives lots of information about the test section by section, and it gives advice on how to use all of our resources and also where to find them. The other document on the right here, this is the BMAT test specification. This summarises what each section of BMAT tests, and it briefly outlines the scientific and mathematical knowledge that section 2 questions can draw upon. Okay. You can use the BMAT section 1 question guide here on the left, which works through a sample of each of those different type of thinking skills questions in section 1. So this is a really good place to start to get to grips with the different kinds of thinking skills questions in that section. You can read our free online section 2 guide, which is shown here on the right, to see more about the topics that might come up in the test. You can also use this as a study tool to revise any areas that you need to, alongside your old school textbooks or other reliable resources. And finally, a really effective way to prepare is by using our practice and past papers to familiarise yourself with the test. So when you've taken a look at, so go onto the website, when you've taken a look at the style of the questions and tried a few of them out, we advise that eventually you do a few practice papers under test conditions. So that's no calculator and sticking to the time limits. And that way you'll get a really good idea of what the test day will be like and how quickly you'll need to work to get through all of the questions. This year we've made a small change to section 1 as we've removed one of the question types. This is the data analysis and inference, which was where a question had typically a larger block of text and then a group of 3 or 4 related questions. So we've taken those out, and now it is a split between critical thinking and problem solving, half each in the test, and you can find out more about that too. Okay, so here are a few FAQs that we sometimes get asked by students. everything I'm saying now and everything that I'm going to say, it's all sort of there on the website, but I'm just going to very quickly run through, since these are the sort of common topics that come up. Does it matter that I don't study physics anymore? Well, the science knowledge that you need for section 2, as I've already said, it's the level that students have typically covered by the age of 16, which is GCSE. And we word it like this on the website because we've got an international audience who don't necessarily sort of understand what GCSE level is. But all of that information about the topics is covered in the section 2 guide and also the test specification. And the questions in BMAT focus on you applying your knowledge of science. Does it matter that I don't do any subjects where I write essays now? So as I've mentioned, BMAT section 3 is only a short essay, 1 page of A4, and it requires you to use skills that you've already gained from your schoolwork, such as in English, say GCSE English, for example, and that you've already used in report writing that you might have done on your current courses. On our website, we also provide practice papers, sample essays with examiner commentary, and the marking criteria, as well as quite a bit of guidance about how to approach the writing task. So this will help you prepare. If you get access arrangement for your school exams, we offer the same arrangements for BMAT, but you will need to let your school or test centre know about your requirements before they register you for the test. If you need modified papers, we need time to print them. So please note that there is an early deadline for requesting these. And as I've said, all that information is on the website. If you can't afford the test, we offer a reimbursement of the test fee to people who meet financial criteria, showing that they are unable to afford it. Again, the details of how you apply for that is on our website. And there you'll find all of the information about BMAT that I've covered and lots more. So, okay, yeah, good luck with taking it.
Great, thanks very much for that, Rachel. It was a really concise overview of the BMAT, and I think it's really important just to reiterate what Rachel said. You know, when you Google BMAT, you get lots of different links, but you know, there's so much information. Everything that you need is on the BMAT website.
Yeah.
It's really easy to underestimate that, but actually, you know, there aren't many tests that actually put past paper questions on their website, and they're there for you to look at in terms of looking at essay topics and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really important for us that everything that's available, you know, is there for free, so that people can access those materials. And we're asked, you know, should I attend a course? Should I pay for a course? And we always say no, because everything is there on the website. You know, it really is a matter of it's testing your aptitude and kind of honing your skills. So much of it is sort of time management. It's testing you on things that are going to be useful for you to carry forward, and it's skills that you've already got. And the science is GCSE level, and it really is just a matter of, you know, if you need to revise, so look at the test spec, look at the section 2 guide, check that you know those areas. Look at that alongside the question papers, because it's applying that knowledge to the questions, because it's sort of testing, as you will at university, you know, can you apply your knowledge to this situation? So it's testing those skills that you're obviously good at, because you're applying for medicine and you're interested in science. So and, you know, thinking skills, you know, and a lot of it is time management. So yeah, it is, a lot of it is just a matter of sort of practicing.
And at Becoming a Doctor, we absolutely agree with that. We don't think cost should be a barrier, and there are lots of expensive outlets there, which are very easy to kind of get trapped into. Everyone wants to get into medical, dental, or vet school, but you know, as Rachel said, please just have a good look at the website and take that time to practice with your friends and with the teachers at school.
I would definitely say go to the website, and the first thing I showed, which was the preparation guide. It's a 6-page PDF. It kind of runs through. There's quite a few questions about the format of the test sort of running down in the questions box. That information is in the preparation guide, and it also links to the different resources. And the thing is, it's quite personal as to, you know, the areas that you need to focus on yourself. And a really good way is to just sort of be guided by the papers, because the papers are the papers. They are the things that people sat down and did. We've also got the scores from each group that sat that paper each year. So you can see on the scoring and results page of the website how the people that actually sat the test performed when they did it, and you can sort of compare yourself against them. Yeah, exactly. So this guide on the left is a really, really good place to start. It's a really good sort of introduction. I'd say don't be afraid of dipping your toe in as soon as you're ready and just going and having a look. The test isn't till November, but this is a really good time. Well, I mean, it's not a really good time, obviously, but I mean, whilst there is time, it gives you an opportunity to sort of take a look and start to get a feel for it. Don't be shy about just kind of plunging in and having a look.
Great. So Connor, Ricky and myself will be helping with bringing your questions to That's not a question.
Sorry, my phone.
So right at the start of our live stream, Sarah on YouTube asked whether she should have already started preparing for the BMAT.
I would say that it's a very personal thing about BMAT preparation. It's kind of really does sort of vary from sort of person to person about how they approach it. I'm sorry, I've got an answer message coming in on my phone. I hope you can't hear it. It's sort of down the other end of the room. Sorry. I'll just wait for the end of that message. Sorry to interrupt that question. Yeah, I mean, people have really, really different approaches. It's a good idea to ask students who've sat BMAT about when they started their preparation and how they approached it. I would say it's quite early to kind of start doing a lot, but it's a good idea to take a look and kind of think about developing your own strategy, I would say. A bit like anything, it's just kind of, look at the papers, where are you at, what might you need to focus on, filling in gaps where you might kind of find that you've maybe kind of got things that you could do better at. But I wouldn't say sort of intensive preparation a long time before would be helpful, because you'll either burn yourself out or kind of forget kind of, how you go about it. But yeah, I mean, I think having a look at the website, just getting some information should hopefully kind of, make people sort of feel a bit more comfortable with what it's about. Would be my advice, but I mean, that's a personal approach. I mean, yeah. I mean, any advice?
I actually didn't take the BMAT. I decided when I applied for university, I decided that all of the universities I wanted to apply for weren't at the time using it. But now there's much more universities using the BMAT, and so I definitely would have taken it if I was applying now. I know, Vicky, you currently go to Leeds, who require the BMAT.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously, if you're applying for both UCAT and BMAT unis, you just want to be able to sort of juggle your preparation times for both. So I remember focusing on the UCAT first because I booked to do that test like early September, and then I knew BMAT was after that. So I think I only started preparing once I'd done my UCAT. But equally, if you balance your time, especially with school being a bit disrupted at the moment, you can starting early is not. It's just going to put you in good stead for just being in that frame of mind of taking that exam in November. Yeah.
I think just adding to what Rick said, there's a lot of kind of group discussions you can have around some of the components of the BMAT, for example, the essay questions. If you've got peers who are applying for medicine, dentistry or veterinary, you can get together, brainstorm some of those questions, look at how you each tackle them. But I think the point Rachel raises around burnout is really, really important. These subjects, these disciplines attract perfectionist traits. And sometimes we can overdo things. We can start too early, spend too much time. And that can, often we can end up performing worse than we would have if we were doing less. So keeping that balance is key.
Yeah, I'd say that's definitely, I mean, I think it is a good idea to kind of start looking now, whilst there is time, just, kind of bear in mind that there is sort of quite a bit of time. I mean, I don't know if people haven't been to the website, we've got past papers going back, way back to when we first started, which I think was in 2003. So there are a lot there. And I would say that because we've been going for so long, the format of the test has changed a little bit over time, a little bit. So the older papers are slightly further away from sort of the current spec, but will still be helpful. So maybe use those ones, sort of look at the specimens for how it actually will look, but sort of do some practicing on some earlier ones, and then use the later ones nearer the test date, because they are going to be a more accurate representation of what the test is. So, I mean, last year's particularly, I mean, I would sort of save that right till sort of quite close to, so you get a really good idea of what it's like.
Great, thank you. We have a question also about if you could explain a little bit more about how the scoring works for the different sections. So Ellie on YouTube also has asked, how does the BMAT score work?
Okay, so the scoring for section 1 is now out of 32, and for section 2 is out of 27. And then after the test is taken place, the score is converted to being out of 9. And you'll see the sort of distribution when you look at the scoring, as I mentioned, against each cohorts that sat the test for each paper, that kind of, it does sort of peak in the middle. So, I mean, I would really emphasize that BMAT is designed to be a challenging test. It has to be, because everybody that's taking the test are, you know, very high achieving. So it's, the idea is that it does differentiate. So it's not the kind of test that you're going to ace. So don't feel disheartened. You just need to look at those scoring and results to see, and look at the university websites to see the scores that they're looking for. And you'll see they're not looking for 9, not at all. It isn't that kind of test. You know, if you're getting half marks, that's, you know, keep going. That's, you know, that's good going. But you can sort of look at each sort of set of results by year and compare yourself to the group that took it, you know, when the paper was sat. For section 3, the essay part, it's marked on the quality of content and the quality of English. That isn't to say we're looking for the most floral language, but it's a communication exercise, because this is part of kind of what you'll be going on to do. So it's, can you communicate your ideas? Can you see the other side of an argument? And can you kind of lead those steps through to a conclusion? Can you do that concisely? Because as I think I've mentioned several times, it's just one page of A4. So can you plan, you plan that out as well? So you can make notes to plan out your essay, and we do strongly advise that you do that beforehand. So it's marked on the quality of the content and the quality of the English, and it gets a mark. It gets marked twice by 2 different people, and then the average mark is taken. And if there's a difference of 2 marks, then it's marked a 3rd time. And again, you can sort of see how people scored on it on the website, and you can also see some sample essays with examiner commentary and their marks, which should help sort of give an idea of the level, and the marking criteria as well. So this gives a guideline of how the examiners for section 3, what they're looking for against the essay. And as you'll sort of see, it's about how you structured your argument. It's not about this is the right way of thinking and that's the wrong way of thinking. It's the sort of, it's you're structuring your content and kind of how sort of compelling what you're saying is, and does it fit together? And it's a short document, but it's very helpful with the section 3 marking criteria.
Yeah, thank you. And that leads into another question where someone has asked who they should be getting to mark the practice section 3 papers that they're doing. Who should they be getting to mark those for them?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, obviously, it's quite difficult because really not being in school. You know, when students go back into school, if they have a teacher, and it doesn't have to be a science teacher, because actually it's not you know, this is an essay. If they've got, it can be a science teacher, it could be an English teacher, a history teacher, it could be a relative, or if you know someone else that's applying, why not bounce off each other? You know, and because you should have a good idea. Look at the website. We've got some videos, some quite helpful videos where the examiners talk about kind of their approach to, you know, marking the essay, what the sort of things that they're not kind of guidelines of we are looking for this. You know, they're sort of looking for interesting arguments and sort of well put forward ideas. And there are some really, really helpful videos, and it also includes how can I sort of tell how I'm doing. Sometimes you can just write something, put it to one side for a few days, and then sort of come back to it again with fresh eyes, have the marking criteria and think, have I done what I think kind of goes along with these marking criteria? And those sample essays I mentioned as well should be quite helpful to sort of see the sort of things that the examiners have said.
Thank you. Vicky, can I ask who you had mark your essays when you were practicing?
I think I just asked my biology teacher at school, just because she was really helpful. But yeah, like you said, because it's not all about science. It's just anyone who who's able to help you really and has the time to.
I think even asking people who've previously taken the test to have a look at them. I think the essay section is a good way to prepare for that is wider readings. For example, in the past, there have been questions on looking at the junior doctor strike. So if you do keep up to date with current affairs, obviously, with the current pandemic, that would be a very that would be something that you might expect, in the assessment. But there are so many, topics that really that could be asked, and I guess in that way you can't prepare for every question. You can't have masterminded every single topic. We're not walking encyclopedias, but sorry. Yeah.
No, I completely agree exactly, Raj, with what you're saying. I think if you've it's a very good idea to keep your eye on the news, which I think obviously, particularly now everybody is doing, but kind of keeping up on sort of issues. This is will stand you in very good stead for your interviews and your kind of going on to university. Obviously, the essay is not a test of general knowledge. It's not a test of do you follow the news. There are no right and wrong answers. The way that the essay is structured is that it's usually a statement or a quotation, and then it says, what do you think it means? So you're setting out your terms. I think it means this. And that's where you go with it from your essay. It's not, this is a test of, what you know about data about X, Y, and Z. It isn't about that at all. The questions are quite open. The idea of having the choice of 3 is that, everybody will find that there's something, and you can sort of bring it round to what you kind of want to say. If you want to bring in examples, you can do, but it's only one A4 page. So don't write loads of facts and figures about something, because that won't be relevant to a communication exercise. This is putting forward an argument that is sort of interesting, that you can see the other point of view, that you're sort of backing up. It's as if you were talking to someone and saying, I think this and I think this because X, and it's quite kind of convincing, if you see what I mean. But I mean, I think watching those videos and looking at the first PDF that I mentioned, they're quite short videos. It just it will give you sort of quite a few pointers into kind of how to approach it.
I remember practicing, because my writing is usually quite big, so I had to practice to make sure that I could fit as much as possible in the space provided. So it's definitely worth doing a few actual mock runs before you just go to the exam, and making sure your writing is legible, which isn't always the thing that doctors are known for.
I think what I'd also say is that so as you'll see when you go to the website, it's an A4 page with a box on that you fill in. You can't go over onto the back even if you're just adding on one word, because it won't get marked. The idea is that you get it within this box. But I would say don't sit there doing tiny writing, because that really isn't the point either. If you plan out the essay, and you can plan it on the question paper, there's a space that says use this to plan. So work it out beforehand when you're doing a practice, how long it takes you to write 1 page of A4, which you might as well do a practice for. And then you can work out how long you can spend planning, because planning will make sure that you've got a structure. If you make sure that you're okay, have I answered every part of the question? Have I backed it up with sort of something that's kind of backing up my argument? Then you can sort of go onto the paper itself. So you can sort of work these things out and get a strategy, that works for you in place, before you sit the test. But if you find that you run out of time, I'm now going to kind of pinch bits of those videos I just mentioned. If you run out of time, just do some planning. Even if you just do a plan of what you would write, then you've kind of you've kind of half done it. So then you don't need to sit there. I mean, I would say definitely do practice doing a few essays. But if you think I want to do another sort of run through for section 3, but I'm running out of time, just think, oh, well, I'll do a plan to practice it. So, but definitely a good idea to, practice the real thing, filling out your A4 and so on.
So I also meant to say, actually, I forgot to say, in terms of asking who to mark your answers, I also remember emailing medical students as well that I'd got in contact at school from. So at the moment, especially with everything going on, I think lots of people online will be really, really keen to help with this kind of stuff. So it's really, don't be shy to email people or contact people even on Twitter and Instagram, and just say, oh, can I have some advice on this essay? So yeah, I meant to mention that as well. So yeah, don't be shy.
We recognise how difficult it is in the pandemic, particularly when you can't meet your friends and have those one-to-one discussions with teachers. So we're very happy to help support you to create virtual environments with resources. We've traditionally helped set up school societies for MedSocs, where you've got questions for debate with guest speakers, but we can help provide you with digital resources. But I think, at the very top of your list, and probably the only thing you really need to know is the BMAT website, because I don't think there's any other test that has such an extensive kind of resource pool with all the, past paper questions that there are there to work through.
I would just say with all of those resources that are there, I mean, I mentioned that there are lots of past papers and that we wouldn't expect people to do all of them. It is a bit like that with all of the resources. Dip in and see kind of what you want to use. It's not that we're saying you must do this, you must do this, you must do this, you must do this. They're there for you to have a look at. Do I need to do more on this? Do I need to do more on this? They sort of, they give you pointers along the way, and then you can focus on the areas that you feel that you might need to.
That's great. We had a quick question here about the UCAT and the BMAT, which I'm happy to just answer quickly. So the UCAT and the BMAT are two entirely separate exams, and some universities require one and some require the other. And so having done the BMAT, that's not acceptable for the universities that require the UCAT. And so if you're applying in the UK with UCAS, you can only apply for four medical schools. And so if you're applying to medical schools which require the UCAT and medical schools which require the BMAT, then yeah, you're going to have to sit both of those exams, because they would be for different universities at that point. So Rachel, we had a quick question here about whether, if there's a change in the lockdown restrictions that are currently in place, will the BMAT change its mind about whether there'll only be the November session running?
As far as I know, no, because it's not just in the UK. BMAT is taken around the world, and we sort of had to take a decision on, fairness, and part of it was sort of thinking that, people haven't been in school for a while, and that's going to be kind of, different all around the world. So people sort of wouldn't be ready and in the right frame of mind. And we don't know kind of which restrictions are changing, or if there's a second wave, things might change really sort of suddenly again. But we felt, we feel November, is a safe bet, and whereas September is just that bit closer, because it is the start of September. Sorry, would it be in the start? No, later. But we just felt it was too soon, given the state of things both here and around the world, that it was just all a bit kind of uncertain. And just to kind of let people know that was kind of, where it's at, so they could get thinking and get planning really for sort of what they want to do, give them sort of enough time.
We probably have time for a couple more questions. So we have a question here about what is a typically good score for the BMAT, and what would the cutoffs be?
That really kind of has to be down to the universities. I mean, as I've sort of mentioned, half marks is kind of, this is the kind of test that it is. It is challenging. Have a look at, I think pretty much all, I'm pretty sure, Vicky, would you say that university websites now would have the information about the BMAT results? I'm pretty sure that they do, sort of give information about how they use the different sections. But I mean, really, you just want to do absolutely the best that you can in this test, and just really go for it. I think really.
I can say that with my BMAT score, it wasn't top sort of. I wasn't getting 6s in all the sections. I think I was getting around 4s, and they use that in addition to like my interview and my personal statement and my grades as well. So I had strong GCSEs, which really helped balance out my BMAT score. So even if you don't get the BMAT score that you're hoping for, it's worth looking into how certain unis use it. So at Leeds, they definitely used my grades and my personal statement in addition to the, they didn't have a particular cutoff score. I didn't end up scoring too badly, and I ended up getting an interview from that.
And then we have a fairly similar question kind of on the same theme about whether the different sections will be weighted evenly by universities. So do all 3 of the sections of the BMAT exam have an equal weighting?
I'm afraid I don't know that off the top of my head. I would say it's not, because they use them differently. But I think all the universities are pretty kind of open with all their information about how they use the test. So if you were interested in, say, Leeds, look on their website what they say about BMAT. It kind of gives sort of information about how they use the results and sort of fit them in with the rest of the sort of process.
And if it's not there, just email the universities and ask them for more information if you can. Sometimes you can come across a lot of published stuff on different forums online, but I'd avoid the forums online because quite often there can be perceptions of what people think might have happened. So it's always best to ask the universities directly, go to their websites, or give them a call or email.
And I think we have a question here from someone who I think has joined a little bit late. So we've got a question on Facebook asking whether the science section could ask something that wasn't on the syllabus. I know you've already partly answered this, but could you just answer it again, just for anyone who
of course
wasn't there?
No, that won't happen. So we've got a test specification which does briefly cover all of the sections, but it also lists the topics. So it'll go through biology, chemistry, physics, math, with all of the topics and the sort of areas that you should know about, because these give you a really good kind of basis of knowledge that you can then apply sort of going forward, not just in BMAT, but kind of sort of beyond. And what you should find, and sorry, I mentioned the section 2, the section 2 online guide, which is free. It's just like an online resource that you can use for revision. If you find when you kind of go to it that it feels like it's been a bit of a while since you covered a subject, then go to your textbooks and kind of go into further depth if you feel that you need that, or other, we say, reliable resources on the internet. Just make sure that where you're going is somewhere that's trustworthy. But the idea of the section 2 guide is that it expands out on the test specification, so it runs in the same order. It lists the test specification points sort of by topic, and so it should sort of, so you kind of go, oh yeah, okay, mitosis, yes, tick, got it covered. That's the kind of so there we go on the right. So that's the test specification. So that's a sort of long list of different topics, and then the guide you can just use and go through, revise if you need a little bit more kind kind of, do go to your school books. But basically the Section 2 guide kind of goes into the sort of the right amount of detail that kind of reflects the questions. So use the Section 2 papers alongside the guide. So if you're doing some past papers and practicing some questions and think, oh, I don't really know how to answer that, do I have that knowledge to kind of apply to that question? There it is on the right. This is a really kind of handy resource to dip into, and you can print bits off if you want to. You can just access it on your phone or laptop or wherever. So sort of, use those things alongside each other, but there won't be things that are off. We call it our specification. I will just sort of mention at this point that, as I said, we've got past papers going back a long time. Some of the older questions have gone off specification because we've slightly changed the specification, but every question that's off is marked. So if you were doing a past paper and thought, oh, I don't know about that, if you saw that it was off specification, then it's off specification now. But they are all marked. It's marked on the front of each paper, and it's marked with an asterisk within each paper.
And I will just reiterate for anyone who didn't hear it the first time. So the BMAT has a fantastic amount of information on the official website. So on admissiontesting.org/BMAT, and they have everything that you would need to prepare for the BMAT. So we've had a few questions from people asking if we recommend other third-party guides or textbooks that they should purchase, but there's a huge amount of information that you can access, and as Rachel has just said, tons of past papers that you can do on the official website, which is linked at the bottom there. It's admissionstesting.org/BMAT-preparation, and that's where you can access all of the resources you would need to prepare for the BMAT exam.
I think there was a guide, Rachel, maybe we had a question. There used to be a guide that was recommended, which I believe is no longer the case. Is it a thin book that people could purchase?
Yes, that was our official book. So because the test has changed a bit since then, it is a bit out of date. That book was produced quite a few years ago, and we haven't updated it because we put so many free resources on the website, and we'd much rather people use free resources and went there than went and bought a book. So that's why we always say, go to the website, use the resources there. There are so many of them that the book I think is still out there, but it's not something that we kind of think people should necessarily need with the sort of resources that are available on the website. But if people did want to, it is out of date, basically, because the format's changed. I mean, I think every book will now be out of date that's out there because the section 1 has changed. So yeah.
No, I guess it's like papers, once they're published, they get out of date anyway.
Yeah.
Things moving so fast. We've had a few questions around the test. Are there any plans for it to be online? I think we might have already covered this, but just to kind of to answer that question.
No, it's always been paper based, and that's sort of the plan sort of for this year, and any changes that happen with anything, we will put the change. As soon as they happen, we will put things onto the website and let people know about it. That's why I would definitely say, as alongside sort of preparation, just keep an eye on things, just to be on the safe side. But yeah, I mean, the date, in November is, the date that is going to go ahead. So yeah, sort of going ahead as planned for November.
Great. No, thanks for kind of bringing that clarity again for students. So we've got a graphic that's just appeared as well with the test date. And in terms of registering for the test, is this something that students do themselves, or the teachers at the schools will do for them?
Yeah. So because we're only doing the November session now, your test centre, which for most students sort of listening in, it will probably be their school or college, If anybody isn't taking it at school or college, then they need to find a test centre, and they can find a test centre on our website. And if they have any trouble with that, they can contact our help desk. In fact, anybody can contact our help desk if there's anything that they're struggling with on any kind of matter. So yeah, your test centre, your school will need to register you for the test. So you need to let them know that you want to take it, and that I've mentioned about access arrangements. Well, if it's your school, they will probably know, but worth sort of reiterating, yes, I need, access arrangements, because that's noted when they register you. There are two deadlines. One is the standard fee deadline, which is the 1st of October. And then there's the very, very final deadline, which is the 15th of October, which is a slightly higher additional fee, because we sort of start our processes and we want, obviously, the bulk to be, being processed, earlier rather than later. So just be mindful of those things and make sure that you get your school to register you by the 1st of October.
Thanks for that. And we've had a question come through regarding in terms of writing participation, ensuring that the test is accessible to all. What is the process around, claiming reimbursements for the test? Claiming
reimbursements. There's information on our website. I can't remember which page. If you go into the BMAT November page on our website, there's about sort of 5 different sections, and there's dates and costs, which covers this kind of information. And the reimbursement criteria are there, and it also tells you how you go about kind of, making your request for a reimbursement.
Great, yeah, because we've had lots of questions about that in the past, and I think previously some students have actually been put off some of the assessment tests, thinking that they might not, be reimbursed. But it's good to know that you have that provision for students, and we'll try and find a link to that and share it.
That would be great. Yeah, no, I mean, it's very important to us at BMAT. It's very important to universities that this whole process is open and accessible to everybody. So yeah, if you fall into this category, please go and have a look and have a look at those criteria and the process of applying for a reimbursement. And please bear in mind also that there is a deadline. I think it's the 15th of October. So please, if that applies to you, please make sure that you meet that deadline. So have a look.
Good idea to write all these deadlines down in your diaries or your
I know it sounds terrible. Deadline. They are, it's, the November the 4th, there's sort of 15th, which is etched in everybody's minds anyway, because it's also the UCAS deadline, so make sure that you have your deadlines and that you sort of do the things that you need to do.
We probably get a spike of registrations like an hour before they close. But yeah, if possible to try and apply before, much in advance. Okay, an interesting question just come through. Can share that to the screen. What would happen if there's a second wave in November? How would university applications be assessed? This could be an essay question for the BMAT.
Yeah. I don't really kind of know at the moment about kind of, what will happen further down the line. I can only say that if anything changes from what I'm currently saying and what's on the website, that we will send the information out and sort of send it as far and wide as we can, if anything is different to what we've already said. In terms of how universities go about their own processes, a bit like the results, that's sort of with them. University information, we do have contact with our universities that use our tests. Obviously, we sort of work quite closely with them, but we don't sort of speak on their behalf of how they use, how they do the sort of application process. Sorry, that's a bit of a vague answer, but I mean, I can really only say without, with things being sort of so uncertain, that keeping an eye on the website is, and the university websites, just to check things are as you think they're going to be.
Might need to ask the Chief Medical Officer to input into that as well regarding school.
Yeah.
There's another question which I feel we've answered. If you require extra time for normal exams, can you get it for BMAT? And as Rachel has said, schools will look to mirror those arrangements that are already in place.
Yeah. You know, if you're not taking it at a school, if you're taking it at a test centre, you know, then you need to, your school should know, but I would just sort of make sure that they know that the same arrangements are allowed. It needs to go in as part of your application. And I would also just sort of reiterate that if you require modified papers, there is an earlier deadline. You probably won't be very surprised, another deadline, just to give us time to do the kind of different kind of printing or kind of whatever's required. So if it's a modified paper that you need, do check the website for the deadline. That also needs to go on your registration.
Great. So we've got the final few minutes really. I was wondering if you had any kind of key tips for students or any further thoughts, Rachel, and of course Connor and Ricky, if you'd like to share any.
Well, I would just like to say, you know, that I just think, you know, try and sort of enjoy the process, because this is testing your thinking. You know, everybody that's watching, everybody that's going to be applying, you know, this is what you're good at. It is just a matter of sort of getting it down and managing to do it in time. Make sure you sort of a tip for the test day is make sure that you answer all of the questions. They are multiple choice for sections 1 and 2. Don't let yourself get held up by any one question. Move on and come back to it. But if you need to make a guess, then do make a guess, because there's no negative marking. Don't miss any out. You know, there's no point. You might as well make a guess. And usually you can rule out 1 or 2 of the options before you do it. So don't leave any gaps, is a sort of test day tip. But it's kind of, you know, it's using the skills that you've got. As you'll see if you kind of, you know, go and sort of have a look at what it's actually like.
Personally, I think also another interesting thing is they might actually use your essay at the interview, which was something that kind of surprised me when they whipped that essay out back again at one of the MMI stations. So it might be worth sort of remembering what essay you picked and maybe some main points from the day. Strange thing to think about, but yeah, it might come up again at your interview. So just my tip there.
I'd say it is a way away, the actual exam, November. But as Rachel has said, now is a great time to get accustomed to the style of the exam. So you can kind of have a look at what could be asked of you. You can start thinking about how you're going to prepare now. You don't necessarily need to be revising for it specifically now, but start thinking about how you're going to prepare for it. And in the meantime, you can also start doing other things now. Now is a great time to start writing your personal statement. If you're going to be applying for maybe a university that isn't using the BMAT, you can start thinking about your UCAT preparation, but have in your mind what could be asked of you on the BMAT. So start thinking about if you haven't taken physics or maths at A level and you haven't done that for a year now, maybe have a little look at your GCSE notes and have a look at that section 2 guide on your phone, and you can start having a think about something and the parts of it that you're not too confident in. And then by starting now, when it comes to the actual exam, you're not going to be worried about specific things coming up.
Great. I think just to echo what everyone said, there's a lot to say about being familiar with an exam. You know, it's not always about the knowledge, but actually, you know, how, you know, having, you know, done mocks before, you know, taking time to actually put yourself in exam conditions and having a go at doing some of those questions, I think will set you in good stead. Just a quick point for international students, Rachel, if you have some international students tuning in, was there any information that was particularly relevant for them?
In terms of BMAT, I don't think so. Depending on where the costs are sort of different in different places. So I'd sort of have a look on the website about the costs. I would just check about, because sort of there are some universities that use it only for international students, some that use it for only some international students. So I would just sort of check the requirements. That's a general thing for international students that I'm sure they're well aware of for application to medicine in the UK. Yeah, I mean, if they've got any questions about anything that they think might affect them, you know, there's information on the website, including finding test centres. So mainly in the UK, students take the test at school or college, but sort of internationally, that isn't always the case. And you can find test centres on our website. So I'd sort of say, you know, have a look around on the website if you've sort of, you know, got any questions that you sort of need the answer to, and contact our help desk team if there's anything that's not covered. But yeah, website.
It's the oracle. Make sure, and I think a lot of the questions that come, you know, we don't know how this pandemic will, you know, pan out. We're not sure how things will change. So it is important that you continue to check, you know, the official sources, which are the website. BMAT, you know, been great on social media, great online presence. So do bookmark the website and keep checking. And we'll be putting out some of the links that have been mentioned today on our website as well, and through our social media.
Sorry, I forgot to mention social media. Please do follow us on Twitter for, you know, tips and, you know, the latest news.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Rachel, for joining us this evening. We're really, really, you know, lucky to have you with us for this session.
Oh, nice to be here. Yeah, no, good luck to everybody taking it.
Great. And maybe, you know, if there's interest, we might be able to organise another one, maybe looking at some examples on some of the sections and working through them potentially.
Yeah.
Great. And thanks to Connor and Mickey for, you know, sharing your tips and helping moderate. Yep. Once again, I guess that the key message is check the website for all up-to-date resources.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us, Rachel. That was really, really useful.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I think that was really useful for everyone sort of with doubts at the moment. So
just displaying some of the messages as well. And thanks everyone for tuning in. We hope this has been useful for you. We'll be continuing with our live Q&A sessions, and, you know, I guess take time out to not only work hard but to try and enjoy yourself. You know, keeping that balance is incredibly important, particularly when, you know, we're in times like this when you can't meet up with, you know, your friends and your teachers as you usually can. So thanks again, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you soon.